right. All right, so today I'm so excited on the podcast to have with me today a very special guest, Nicole Simonin, and she is going to be talking to us about a very important topic that I know many of you are interested in, and it's helping women over 40 lose weight for the last time. I mean, yes, we are always battling that weight up and down and up and down. So welcome to the podcast, Nicole. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Hi, Janelle. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I have to give you kudos because you didn't ask me how to pronounce my last name and you nailed it.
Yes. Usually I'm like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and everybody messes up my last name. I get cinnamon. And anyway, so my name is Nicole Simonin. I own Shape It Up Fitness. And as Janelle said, I help women lose weight for the very last time. And as I have journeyed through my decades, I am over 40. I am creeping up towards 50. I just found that there was this missing piece, and things change when we're 40, and I've heard that things change too when you're 50, so I'm excited for that chapter.
Yes.
But I had switched gears a little bit in my business a while back because I had turned 40, and I was really struggling with why can't I do certain things that I want to do? And in particular, it was why can I not resist this type of food or whatever? So I really dived into the mindset part. And part of that comes, I know we talked off camera before, but when I was 17, I was really sick. And the doctors told me I wouldn't be able to walk and I possibly would be blind. And I think young bliss kind of stepped in, and I was a professional ballet dancer, and I was very determined at 17 to become a professional ballet dancer, and I did achieve that. Obviously the doctors were wrong. I am not blind and I can walk very well. I can even run on occasion. But I think there was also another pivot point in my career. About maybe, I think it was about 10 years ago, I had owned a studio and we were doing really well, but I was struggling with the balance between running a successful fitness studio, and balancing my family. My kids were very little. I was driving back and forth 6 times a day to the studio that I had owned, and it was a good 20-minute drive. I was never seeing my husband, and I went through this really big funk about, when I closed the business, I was like, what am I going to do now? Should I continue with fitness? I was just really not in a good place. And I found some self-help books. And in particular, it was Jen Sincero's, can I say, you are a
yes.
a badass.
Yep.
And I really dived into self-help. That book definitely shifted something for me. And I think going along your podcast lines, I just became fearless. And it's just added incrementally throughout the years. I feel I'm more fearless now than I was in my 20s. Wow. And that's saying a lot, because in my 20s as a ballet dancer, I was very determined. I was very competitive, and very much if I saw a dance role that I wanted, I was I'm going for that, and no one is going to stop me. So to be able to say that now in my 40s, and I think that's most of the time when people are thinking, oh, let's start winding down, where I feel like I'm just ramping up and ready to get started. So.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is true that when you hit 50, some more things happen. And I feel like 50s is a very defining kind of transitional period, even more than 40s. And I think maybe part of that is your kids are by then probably pretty much leaving the house or leaving the nest. And there's a lot of who am I? And by then people, women, if they haven't been taking care of their health and they haven't been exercising or eating healthy, that's when it really starts to show up, that post-menopause extra 20 pounds, which I dealt with for sure. And it's harder to get it off. And if they haven't been doing anything, then by then it's really hard to start. And that you kind of get this feeling well, it's too late, but it's not.
Right.
So, and I also feel to what you're saying, to your point, you do start to kind of wake up to your life. A lot of the things we dealt with when we were younger as women kind of go away. You kind of get to this place where you know yourself really well, and you feel a lot more comfortable with who you are, and you have more freedom to do what you want, and you've learned a lot in life and have a lot more wisdom and self-assurance and self-awareness, and that tends to make you feel a lot more fearless as well. Now, some women don't because they haven't done some of the work. And so that's what I like to help them with because it is such a great time of life. Really, middle age, 40s, 50s, 60s, it's a great time of life.
Yeah, I agree. I think I was talking to somebody the other day and they were saying about how, most of fitness is geared toward the 20 year most of fitness is geared towards the 20-year-olds. And I agree with that. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like 40s is really where it's at, and
Mhm.
granted, I'm not in my 50s yet, but I have a feeling I'll feel the same way about 50, about 60, about 70.
Yes,
That's just my philosophy. I feel like every, not even decade, but every stage or season of your life, there's something amazing about it, you
yeah,
know?
I agree. Yeah, and it's really all perspective. It's how you're looking at it, really, that makes the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I just celebrated my 67th birthday on Friday.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Happy birthday.
you. Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, 67. So you can't get caught up in numbers. I'll tell you that right now. You just live your life and live it to the fullest and be present right now and be healthy and strong. So that's what we want to talk about with you today, right? And
Yeah. And I think to your point about saying, age, the other thing too is if you are taking care of yourself, like kind of like what you're saying, perception,
yeah.
67 may seem very old, but at the same time, it could be very young depending on how, because you don't look 67 for sure. And, what you're doing with your body physically, whether you're active and things like that, I think that really plays a big part in, how you approach each year.
It sure does. And I remember it was probably my mid 50s, I started to really become a lot more aware. I had always tried to be healthy, but I hadn't been an avid, I wasn't an athlete and I wasn't like in the gym all the time. I was off again, on again, put it that way. But when I hit my 50s, I became really aware of like, oh my gosh, wow, that was fast, that 50 years.
Yeah.
and and the rest is going to go just as fast. So if I'm going to do something, now's the time. It's kind of like, so I really got serious about it at that point and have learned a lot and have focused a lot on being healthy, mindset wise especially. Not so much, I hate diets and I hate getting caught in that diet mindset of, because as soon as I go on a diet, then of course I want everything I can't have because you can't have it.
For sure. Right.
So
Exactly.
I made this goal, like I wanted, my motivation and my why was to be healthy and strong as I aged so that I could live a long life being healthy and strong and vibrant and enjoying life. And that was my goal, still is. And that helped me a lot, just focus on that. So then my perspective of eating healthy and exercising was different than I have to, because I have to.
Yes. Yeah. And I
So
think that's a big shift for people too, because especially I think for like our generation, we grew up in the 70s, the 80s, and it was, starve yourself, do tons of cardio,
yep.
and resist and white knuckle everything through. And then when you explode, do it all over again.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Exactly, which
Yeah.
makes perfect sense, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't work. Yeah, when clients come to me, a lot of them don't believe that they can lose weight, especially when they're over 40, and a lot of them blame it on genetics. They blame it on their age. It's all downhill from here. Even friends of mine that I talk to who are like either creeping up to 40 or just past 40, they're like, oh, it's over. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like,
Yeah.
stop.
You're
No,
not. It's not. Yeah.
no, not even close.
Uh-uh.
Yeah. And a lot of people, like you're saying, they don't believe that they can lose weight at over 40, let alone 50, 60. Um, but what I find is we all know that we're supposed to um, move more and eat less, but why don't we do it? And I have found that the mindset is the missing piece to all this, because exactly what you were saying, when you focused your goal on being independent in your older age, that's a very strong driving force for you to want to eat healthier, want to move your body. And so I really find that the mindset is really the missing piece. I know for me, it was being a ballet dancer, we were not given sound nutrition advice at all.
Crazy. You think they would give you sound nutrition advice so you'd be strong and healthy, but
Yeah, I think it's shifting now, thank goodness. But you know, if you've ever been involved in the dance world, it's there's a lot of anorexia, there's a lot of bulimia.
mm,
I fortunately was not touched by any of that, so personally. But I mean, some of the advice I remember, one of the directors told me after a performance to boil a big pot of water, dump a whole bunch of sugar in it and cherries and boil it off and then drink it after. Like, don't drink any water the week before the performance, and then afterwards drink this vat of like cherry juice, basically sugar juice. And
whoa.
I didn't do it, but I was like, really? Like, even at that time when I didn't know much about nutrition, I was like, that sounds a little odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just kind of shifting your mind. And like, again, when I was 40, I was like, why do I keep repeating the same things over and getting the same results? I felt like I was kind of going a little crazy because, you know, I kept striving for whatever goal I was after, but I kept like getting knocked back down. And now that I understand how our minds work, and how they're kind of set up to, and I don't know how much you delve into, but like the primitive brain versus the prefrontal
Yeah.
cortex,
Hmm.
and how we just navigate from that primitive brain all the time, who's like a toddler running around with scissors in the house going crazy. And
That's true.
it's so true. And you would think that like our brains are really just trying to sabotage us all day long.
Yeah.
But you know, that part of our brain does serve a purpose. But the more we tap into, I like to call it the sophisticated brain, that sophisticated brain side, that prefrontal cortex, you know, the more we can tap into that, the easier our goals are, and we don't have to really fight so much against that primitive brain. So
Yeah, and
um,
I actually work with several clients who are trying to lose weight and get healthy, and that's one of the conversations we have all the time. I have with them is that you've really got to deal with your mindset. You need to understand how your mind works in all of this. Otherwise, if you're just following a diet and you're just like eating what I'm supposed to eat and not eating what I'm not supposed to eat, then when you lose the weight, you get to your goal weight, you're going to go right back to it because you haven't dealt with the passages that your thoughts have created in your brain, right? That way of thinking, the pattern of thinking that you have established all these years.
yeah,
And if you don't go in there and do that work, you're going to keep on the cycle. You're going to
just
be
keep
on that
repeating
diet
it.
roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, oh, shoot, I just lost my train of thought. This is what happens when you're over 40. You lose your train of thought.
Yes.
um, this is one of the reasons why I don't like generic workouts or diets, because, you know, there are a multitude of diets out there. There are a multitude of 12-week programs out there that anybody can sign up for. But like, if you aren't taking that diet and making it a lifestyle, it's not going to work. The other factor is, and I've done the actual research on this, I have taken like as many diets as I can find, and I have looked at each of them to see what are the similarities, and they all have one thing in common, and it's all that they're low calories. And again, that, like, if you just want to lose scale weight, you drop your calories and you move more,
Yes.
right? And you have
Yep.
to figure out that balance.
Right.
But what happens is it depends on what you want to look like, you know, because sometimes just scale weight, and depending on how much you lose, you could have saggy skin, you could just be draping, you could look very emancipated and very gaunt. And especially as we get older, you know,
Right.
I know a lot of women are very concerned about their face being not fuller. And I think that's where, like when people come to me, I custom design all their workouts. I don't give nutritional plans, but it's also how you want to look and feel, and not just what that scale is saying. Because if you just want the scale to go down, you move more and you eat less until you find that balance.
Right.
But if you want to be toned, you want to look healthy, you want to feel healthy and be healthy, you definitely need to incorporate, you know, weight training, some sort of cardio, yoga, stretching, you know, all the facets of the fitness realm. Not only that, but, you know, what you're choosing for food. I tell my clients no food is off limits. And you alluded to something in the beginning, same thing. Like, if I told you, like, if your favorite food is chocolate, What's your favorite food?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Definitely.
Usually is. If I told you not to have that ever again, you would go on a massive hunt in the 5 mile radius after like 2 weeks and gather all the chocolate and eat it all.
Yeah.
And that's, again, the mindset part of that. So, like, as soon as you tell yourself you can't have something, that inner rebel in you is like, yeah, no, I want it, and I'm going to have it now, and I'm going to have large quantities of it.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So again, it goes all back to that mindset where you have to, and everybody is so different, which I find fascinating. We're like onions, we all have different layers of, because we all grew up very differently. And that, again, is why generic workouts and diets don't work either, because everybody has their own personal preference. Everybody likes to do certain exercises or doesn't like to do whatever. You don't like to eat that certain food. You don't like to eat 3 times a day. You only want to eat once. There's so many factors, which is why I love my job, because I get to like dive in and see what is really going on with this person and mold their program into what they need. So that's why I think generic programs don't work. I mean, for your listeners, how many people have tried diets or have a 12-week workout and it's collecting dust, or
Exactly.
it's just sitting there and you haven't used it? So
Yeah. And I mean, your point is fantastic. And I found this to be true for myself too, is that I had to finally realize that my body is not definitely, it's not like anybody else's, and my metabolism and where my body likes to store fat and why does it store fat. Like I just lost 36 pounds over the last couple of years and got down to a size that I never thought possible, at 60 something. And then I went into my maintenance plan and I'm eating really, really healthy, 1,500 calories or less. But the combination, like you said, the right amounts of proteins and carbs and all of that I like, that really fills me up and makes me feel good energy wise. Like I don't like carbs and stuff like that. So I eat really healthy, but the weight started creeping back up again a little bit. And I thought, well, that's weird. I'm not eating anything to make myself gain weight. So I have this theory, and maybe you can shed light on it, but I have this theory that our bodies like hit a set point, and if you're there for a long time, your body wants to go back to that. And I feel like my body's trying to go back to this old set point. And so now I'm like scaling back a little bit and making some adjustments to bring it back down because I want to create a new set point for my body. So does that make sense? Is that
it
real?
does. There's studies that have been done on that, and some say yes. What my first question is to you is, why do you think that there's a set point? So it goes back to the
Hmm.
mindset part.
Yeah.
Like, so again, like if you have a person that believes they cannot lose weight, they will continuously try to prove, because the brain is like a computer. Like whatever you believe, it is trying to bring evidence
Right.
to reinforce your belief. So if you believe that you have a set point, your brain is going to start looking for evidence for all that. What I would say is look at what you're doing physically. Like if you're exactly like, the other thing too is if you're food logging, how meticulous are you? Maybe you need to do a week where you're food logging and weighing
Like weighing and
exact.
measuring. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. I don't get to, like, I always give my clients an option. They can food log or they can not food log. And basically, if they're doing really well, we don't even touch food logging, because I want it to be natural. And I know me personally, I hate food logging all
Yeah,
the
I do
time.
too.
But with that said, I think food logging works to an extent, because like I know for me, I know exactly how to organize my meals, and doesn't mean I'm actually logging it in something, but at least weighing it.
Hmm.
And I weigh in grams too. I think it's a little bit more particular. Again, this is not necessarily for the quote unquote average person. You don't always have to do that. For me, I am very close to like an ideal weight. So like for me to creep up one way or the other, I need to be very meticulous. Like as the closer or the lower you get in weight, the more detailed oriented you need to be.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Hmm.
yeah, so that's why like the last 10 pounds are always the hardest,
Right.
quote
Right.
unquote.
Yes.
But it depends on, your height, your activity levels. You do lose some muscle mass as you age, but it is not to the extent of what the media always tells you. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, so don't quote me, but I think it's like 2 to 3% per decade
Mm.
of
Wow.
muscle. So it's not huge numbers, like you're
Yeah.
not atrophying in one day.
Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah. But I really think weight training, like, do you do any weight training?
Well, this could be what's happening. So since COVID stopped, I was for years, I've been going to this class at the rec center that's a weight training. She uses all kinds of different things, but it's a whole body workout, really has been wonderful for me. So that was part of my life. And then COVID happened and I've been trying to do it at home, not very successfully. But
Mm.
I do walk and I do yoga, but I know I have not been doing the level I was doing.
Yeah.
But I
I
have.
would say if your schedule is the exact same as it always has been, and you are seeing weight go up, um, then you really need to get meticulous and see what's going on and just be aware too of what you're doing.
Yeah.
But that could be that missing link. I honestly, weight training, I think, is the fountain of youth.
Yes.
And a lot of women don't want to lift. Like, and I'm not talking, you don't have to go flipping tires. You
Right.
don't have to go lifting cars, nothing crazy, you don't have to do Olympic lifts. But I do think you got to get away from those 5 and 3 pound dumbbells. They're 2 pounds. Progressing, like most of my clients, again, they're over 40s, and even myself, I range from fives if it's a light thing, but like 20, 25 pounds, somewhere in there if I'm doing dumbbells, depending on the exercise. But weight training is so beneficial, one, because you are building muscle mass, or at least preserving the muscle mass that you have.
Yeah.
It also strengthens your bones. So if you have osteopenia or osteoporosis, you are helping combat that. And if you don't have those, definitely start picking up some weights, because there's this thing called Wolff's Law. And basically your bones, when they have resistance on them, the bones get stronger. So that's why weight training is so essential for everything.
Yes.
But yeah, I think weight training is like the fountain of youth. You
Yes.
have
I
to
need to.
do it correctly, though.
Yes. And that's one thing that's been nice about this class is she teaches form. And before that, I trained with a trainer and I learned how important that was. But that's probably a good thing to look at. I actually need to increase my weights because I've been a baby about it. I think I went up to 7 or 8 pounds, but I need to push myself. I need to get
Yeah,
with you and you can come up with a workout.
absolutely.
Um, so yeah, but I tell people all that. I tell my younger sisters this all the time. You got to exercise, not necessarily to lose weight just by itself. It's not going to help you lose weight, but you've got to build your muscle and keep your bones strong, and the endurance and the flexibility and the balance and all that's really important. The older you get, it's even more important than when you're younger, I think.
Yeah.
You said the
And
fountain of youth.
yeah, and here's a big bonus for building muscle. The more muscle you have, the more you burn calorie wise just sitting around doing nothing,
Right.
because muscle's very metabolic, and you need food, and you need to, obviously ho-hos and Twinkies are not going to fuel your muscles, but you do need protein, and you need to stress those muscles to keep them. But that is a huge driving force, especially when I'm sitting at my computer, doing my things for my business or talking to my clients or whatever. You could still be burning calories rather than just sitting,
Yeah, that's a huge bonus.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That'll motivate you. It feels good too. I used to hate to exercise and I had to deal with my mindset around that because I dreaded going because it was going to hurt and it
Mm-hmm.
just seemed like a lot of effort and a lot of trouble and then I was going to sweat and so, so I would plan to go, but then by the end of the day, I'm not a morning person. Exercising in the morning is really, really hard for me because when I was working full time, now it's not, but to get up at like 5 in the morning. That wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to be consistent with that. I knew that. So I started going to the gym in the evening after work. Well, it was so easy to talk myself out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided I was going to deal with that mindset first. And I created a statement to say to myself, almost like a little kid where you tell your kid, go brush your teeth. And sorry. Almost like you tell your little kid, go brush your teeth. And I would tell myself, you're going and you're going to feel so good. That was my thought, was I would zero in on how great it feels at the end of a workout, how wonderful that feels. And that's what I would dwell on. And that made me want to go. And then eventually my whole mindset changed and I was looking forward to going and I enjoy exercise. Whereas before it was this big dread. So
Yeah, I think the muscle soreness is a big obstacle for most women. That, and if you are going to a gym, because everyone feels very self-conscious when they walk into a gym.
Right.
Especially if you're overweight, you're not really sure what you're doing, that kind of thing. Which is interesting because this is a common thing that women come to me with. And I'm like, honestly, most people are like not even concerned. Like the people that are being nasty, they're people you don't want to worry about anyway. But
Right.
the people that are looking at you, they're probably thinking, you go girl, you go in there and you do your thing type thing. They're
Yes.
probably cheering you on, or they're feeling self-conscious about themselves.
Yes.
So always go into the gym. Make sure you know what you're doing though, for sure. I know
Yeah.
when I work with my clients, I have an app, so they actually know the exercises that they're doing when they go to the gym and things like that. But soreness for sure. And one of the things with my physical therapy background, um, I try not to get my clients really sore in that initial 1 to 2 weeks, because if you think about it, it's kind of like the whole chocolate scenario. If I told you not to have chocolate, like if you're super sore and you can't move,
Yeah.
you do not want to go back. Like you
No.
do not want to do it.
No.
And the thoughts of like, oh my gosh, I got to put my body through this torture again. Who wants that? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. So starting off really slow and kind of progressing, I think is key. And just definitely working on your mindset, but getting out of your own way. I think that's a big thing. Like if you really want this,
Yeah.
don't let anything stand in your way.
Yeah, and that was another thing that helped me was when I worked with my physical trainer and I invested money in him because I knew I wanted to know how to exercise correctly. And I also knew I needed somebody to push me because I wasn't going to push myself to that point that I needed to go. And I couldn't even tell you what that point was because when he pushed me in, shoot, when he would push me, like I'd be doing an exercise and he would say, keep going, do another set and push harder. I learned through that where my point was that I could go. And I went further than I thought I ever could do. And on my own, I would not have done. So that helped me to learn not only the correct form and how to do the exercises and how to use all the machines, but then how to really push myself, how to create a routine. It taught me a lot. I would just totally agree with you. Don't go in there and just like do some crazy huge workout without knowing what you're doing and doing too much at once. And I think that happens a lot. People are like, I'm going to do this. And they go to the gym and kill themselves and they can't
Yeah.
maintain that.
Yeah. And they bring their generic workout
Yes.
with them. Yeah. Just as a side note, there are some fabulous trainers out there. There are some fabulous, health fitness people. Be careful who you're following though, because I don't know if you know, but like I know I'm a personal trainer through American Council on Exercise. There are a lot of certifications out there that you just go online, you read a couple things, you pay them their money, you say you're CPR certified, and in less than 30 minutes, bam, you're a personal trainer.
Wow.
And they can maybe look fabulous, but that doesn't mean they know how to teach and
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
instruct or modify, which I know from my physical therapy background, that was a big thing, especially when you're over 40.
Mm.
And not to, again, I'm sure there's some fabulous ones, but the young trainers, some of them are all about, looking good in front of the people that they're training or the
Oh,
people that are
wow.
watching. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of times their priority is what's the safest way I can get this person the results that they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's good.
definitely
Good
do
advice.
your
Yeah.
due
Yeah.
diligence.
Yeah, I was lucky. I was blessed because he was our PE teacher where I worked. I worked in an elementary school, and I knew him, and he was
Mm.
fabulous, fabulous. He was worth every dime. So, what's one thing that my listeners could do today to start losing weight?
My best suggestion is always eat when you are hungry.
Ah,
So, meaning true hunger, when your stomach is actually growling, talking to you, making noises. Because if you're eating when your stomach is not growling, you're eating for emotional reasons.
right.
The other end of that is stop when you're comfortably full. Because if you just start eating and you don't stop, then you're going to overeat. Be mindful of when you're eating, what you're eating, how does it taste. There's also, if you try this, sit down with your food, and you have to be very mindful as you're eating, but as you're eating, notice if the taste of the food changes. And interesting enough, when it changes, that's usually when you're comfortably full. So
Wow.
yeah, so
Interesting.
try that next time, especially if you have like a favorite food, like if you're eating dessert or something.
Uh-huh.
Try it and just see. It'll be subtle at first, and then as you keep biting, like if you ever had dessert and you're like, why am I keep eating this? It's like
Right.
I'm good. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I
That
think
would be my best tip.
awareness, yeah, being mindful with your eating is huge. That was another thing that I learned, but stop and breathe and get present with your meal and enjoy the flavors and the texture. Like think about what you're eating and be mindful about how it feels and how it tastes instead of just
Yeah,
shoving food in your mouth while you're watching TV.
right. Mindless eating for sure.
Yeah, and I
Um,
found that I ate less and was full. I was aware when I was full
mhm.
and satisfied, and I could stop because and
Yeah.
then I wasn't hungry like an hour later, not like what used to happen is I wasn't physically hungry, but I wanted to eat even though I just
Yes.
ate because my
Right.
mind wasn't involved when I ate. So my mind's like,
Right.
you didn't eat.
Right, right. And if you're not hungry and you're grabbing, like I was joking with COVID, like we need to socially distance from our refrigerator
Yes.
because we're bored. We need a mood change. You know, our kids are driving us crazy. We don't want to do homeschooling now. You know,
Yes.
whatever you're in, a food is huge in America, especially for, you know, if you work in a corporate environment, everybody's got there's at least one birthday every day, you know, so you
Yes.
got cake. There's, you know, you go to Starbucks for a cup of coffee. The coffee itself is probably 500 calories, depending on what you get. Then,
Yep.
of course, you can't leave without a muffin or scone or, you know, so I mean, food is just so in I want to say enwrapped, but that's
En-
not the right word. But
Entrenched.
yeah, entrenched in our society and what
Yes.
we do, that
Yeah.
we haven't separated it from the fact that food is for fuel. And
Yes.
it's not to say that you can't enjoy a piece of cake or anything like that, but you need to be hungry to eat that cake.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And food has become like this thing like when you socialize, everybody's socializing around food. And I
Right.
discovered this last year during the holidays that because I wasn't so like focused on food, I could focus more on enjoying the company and getting more into my conversations because I wasn't like, oh, the food,
Right.
you
Which
know?
is probably another topic because if you don't get along with your family members, your emotional status, you know, you're going to be like, oh, I need food so I can't
Yeah.
talk to them or, you know, or the stress of the situation. So
Yes.
definitely mindset, I'm telling it's that's like the
Huge.
bottom line. You've got to start there and then build up
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
do. Like if you're at a social event and you don't know anybody and you're nervous, you're going to go hang around by the food and have a plate of
Mm-hmm.
food to kind of hide behind. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so much to
Yeah.
it. I agree with you. Like that is the missing ingredient. I think that's why a lot of times people get stuck in that dieting cycle and never get out of it. So, so
Yeah.
important. So I know you have a special offer, a free offer for my audience. And
I
I'll put the link in the show notes, but tell us about that.
okay, I have to be honest, which one was it?
Oh, sorry. So you have an
Is
offer
it
called Crush Your Cravings
okay, good.
Strong.
I wasn't sure. So I have two. Like if you want a strategy session, you can go to my website. But Crush Your Cravings, actually, we just launched this week, and there will be another one coming up.
Okay.
So it's a 7-day challenge, and basically, I give you the skill sets. Remember, I said when I was 40, I went through all my mindset stuff and figuring out why I did what I did. One of the things with me is I had huge cravings, like donuts were my thing and Cinnabons.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I could not like not eat them. Like I felt like they were calling to me from the kitchen, like, well,
Mm-hmm.
cray cray. But so so I developed these skills, and now like I can sit in front of my favorite cinnamon bun or whatever, and I can choose whether or not I want to eat it. And it's so calm and just peaceful, and knowing that you're in control and not feel like food is
Yes.
controlling you.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that is what the challenge is about. It is 7 days. I give you complete 5-step tools to crush your cravings.
Awesome.
And you can get that at shapeitupfitness.com/stop cravings and just sign up, and I'll let you know when the next one's rolling in. It should be in another, well, depending on when this episode airs too. But yeah,
Right.
it
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely check out Nicole's website and reach out to her if you want a free consultation with her to talk about your particular situation. And thank you so much for being on here with me today. This has been great. Lots of great tidbits, even this, oh,
It's
goodness.
okay.
even the tips you shared with us today, if you guys that are listening to this take some of these tips and start to put them into effect in your life, like you'll start to see a difference. Just even being mindful with your meals, and wait till you're hungry to eat, and really pay attention to when you're full. That alone is huge. And then start moving more. Get those weights going. I'm gonna definitely increase my weight. You've motivated me. I've got it. I've got it. I should be sitting here not doing my workout. I can't wait
We
to
are
work
all
out.
human. Don't worry about
I know.
it.
But anyway, so yeah, it's been really helpful and encouraging. Just everybody listening, if you're over 40, you can lose the weight and keep it off. It is not an impossibility. I'm here to tell you for sure, because I was carrying around extra 30, 40 pounds and couldn't get it off, I thought, but it's off and it's staying off. So, and I'm in my 60s. So it is not impossible.
Yeah, for
And I
sure. Well,
remember thinking, like, I'm going to get lower than what I first originally set as a goal, because I thought that's a mindset thing too. Like, why am I limiting myself that I could only lose this much? And I find that a lot with women. They'll say, well, I probably can just lose this much. I'm like, why? You can
can
go.
can I share a quick story?
Sure.
So one of my clients, Colleen, and if you go to my website, you'll see her on there. She, I think, was in her late 50s when she joined with me, and she was like, I want to be at, I think it was 145, say. And I was like, that's fine. Let's get to 145. If you want to creep down to 140, let's see what it looks like. And it was funny because she got down to 140. She's like, oh, I like 140. And she has kept all the weight off, and it's just wonderful. And
Yeah.
she's in her 60s now, so
Yeah. I got
yeah,
down to
it is totally
124. And I love it. I love
yeah,
being that size. So
yeah.
I'm a little bit more than that now, but I'm, that's, I think you're right. It's just, I felt so good there, and I didn't think I could ever get there. And I'm like, I really like this. I feel like this is me. This is the size
Mm,
that fits me,
like comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing, it's a lifelong journey. It's not like you get to your weight and then you just go,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm
Right.
good. Yeah, you still have to keep going
Yes.
and
That,
maintaining.
that's a huge shift for me too, I think, is that in this diet mentality world, we kind of adopt this thought that we get to our weight and then we can just go back to whatever. And no, it's like lifelong monitoring, watching it, keeping track, not like daily, maybe logging, but being aware and not just completely forget, but be aware of what you need to do to keep yourself, in that range that you want to be. And I wasn't doing that before. I was just kind of like throwing it all out the window,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. That's where
So,
the mindset comes in too,
yeah.
because like when people think maintenance, they're like, oh my gosh, maintenance. Now I have to like eat, I have to eat this way for the rest of my life or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you're in the right frame of mind, it's
Yes.
it's so different, so
It
different.
is so different. Yes. Yes. It is definitely a lifestyle and a lifelong thing of eating. I always call it like nourishing my body. I like
Mm,
that phrase better
yeah,
than even eating healthy, because I know what it feels like when I'm nourishing my body with good whole
right,
food, and it
right.
feels so good. And that's
Yeah.
where I want to be. So, and it has helped me so much as far as the cravings. I used to love a lot of sweets and ice cream and all that kind of stuff. And I like you, I can sit in front of it and just go,
Yeah.
or yeah, I'll have a little bit, but
Right,
yeah,
right. The
yeah,
freedom of choice though is, it sounds so simplistic, but it, like, we don't allow ourselves to make that choice. And again, mindset, like as
yeah,
soon as you know, oh, I have a choice, I can
yeah,
choose, which direction I want to go to. If I eat this cake, I
yes.
might be a little longer in my goals, like
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a choice, but make it mindfully. Like the other day on my birthday, I had a birthday on Friday, and I had not had any ice cream or any kind of sweets for probably a year, maybe one or two little things. So hardly any in the last year. And so I chose, I'm going to have a little bit of dessert. It's my birthday. And I did, and I couldn't eat it all. I didn't want it all. I had a few bites of it and I was good. And it just
yeah,
and it was not like a big deal. I wasn't like fighting it or anything. And it
right.
just felt really good to have that choice and that peace and that control. It wasn't even control. It was more like
Take
I was
take it or leave it.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
satisfied. Yeah, it
The
wasn't.
other thing too is I think people when they taste things that they haven't tasted, so like you didn't have cake.
Mhm.
I know a lot this happens with soda with my clients is they won't drink soda and then they'll have a soda later on. They're like, oh, it's
Yeah,
disgusting. I was like,
yeah,
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 your
yeah.
taste buds change.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I don't like stuff I used to like.
Yeah,
It's not even a temptation anymore. So
yeah.
that's where we want to all be. So
Yes, so much more peaceful and calm on the side for sure.
it really is. Well, thank you again for coming on and sharing your wisdom. And ladies, if you want to reach out to Nicole, you can reach out to her. I'll post everything in the show notes, how to reach out to her,
Yes.
shapeitupfitness.com.
Yep.
And reach out to her to get into that challenge. That should be really interesting. And so thanks again, Nicole, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah. All right, ladies, talk to you next time. Oh, oops, wait a minute. I need to stop the recording.